Welcome to our weekly Forex Forecast call. And today we are going to be looking at analysis for the week of December 31st to January 4th here. Oh, 2019, not 2018. So our very last call for the year here. Before we get into it, though, just a quick disclaimer. This is for educational purposes only. Trading is a risky business, so please be careful with your money. So we'll start off by taking a look at our calendar as usual here. Light week in terms of trading. It will be a low liquidity week as well with multiple holidays here, and a lot of people would have taken the extra time off because January 1st falls in the middle of the week here, so a lot of people would have taken extra days off. So next week, though, things should start picking up as most people come back into trading, and then a couple weeks into January, we should be back into normal liquidity conditions. So just keep that in mind. All right, to start off with, Monday is a holiday. Tuesday is a holiday, bank holiday pretty much everywhere here. We do have Chinese data coming out here. And China numbers have not been coming out too well recently. And a Chinese number will have an impact on Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar. So good Chinese data has a positive impact on those currencies, and vice versa there, because both Australia and New Zealand are big exporters to China. And then on Thursday here, January 3rd, we have ISM manufacturing PMI numbers here for the US. We also have ADP non-farm employment numbers. So these are precursors to non-farm payroll numbers. So this will be important here. And then on Friday, of course, we have the big numbers out of the US. First, we have Canadian employment numbers, and as well also the non-farm payroll, because this is the first Friday of the week here, or sorry, of the month, I should say. We have these numbers coming out. So in here, we are looking for basically non-farm payroll. If the payroll numbers are good, that will be positive. And then we also have average hourly earnings. So sometimes we see that non-farm payroll numbers are okay, but the hourly earnings go down, which tends to have negative impact on the US dollar. So we need positive for both of these, and we need to see that this number is either basically stable or it's actually going down, so it shouldn't be going up, otherwise that will be negative. All right, so that's it in terms of our, actually one more thing here. Fed Chair Powell is speaking. So we have seen lately, a lot of comments out of President Trump tweeting about basically Fed, how he's not happy with Fed because they did not actually basically do what President Trump wanted them to do. They did not go and say that they are not going to raise rates, although before they were supposed to do 3 interest rate hikes next year, and now they're only looking at 2. So even though that is the step in the right direction, however, they basically said that they're going to hold their policy steady. And as a result of that, President Trump has not been very happy because stock markets don't like that, don't like Fed raising rates. And there have been multiple comments, basically negative comments from President Trump towards Powell, and even talk of firing him and stuff like that. So all of those are not good. And we'll see how Fed Chair Powell speaks here. His speech will be very important because even though Fed has officially come out and said that they're not going to change anything, they're going to maintain their policy, but his speech could provide further clues as to whether he's changed his stance at all or not. So that speech will be important and can have an impact on the US dollar. So let's go into our charts now. So we'll start off with our weekly chart, starting off with Euro US dollar here as usual. So Euro has been trading in this range. It did go up last week here, but it's still in that range. If you take a look at it, it's been trading in this range for quite some time. This is the So this is the range it's been trading in. And right now, we have a bullish candle close for the week. And I will look for price to maybe go and test the high here. And because it's been trading in this range, I'm looking for price to respond there. So basically something like this is what I'm looking for, price to potentially test the high into 1.1500, and then looking for price to come back into the range again. So my bias here is neutral, just looking for price to go up and then come back into the range. Now, there will be low liquidity conditions this upcoming week, so keep that in mind, but that's what I'm looking for. So bias is neutral, looking for a potential setup at 1.150 to take it back in here. And then pound here, pound was also bullish, but hasn't really moved a whole lot. And if you take a look at it, it's kind of stuck in this bit of a range, and we don't really see things move very much during the holidays. But what we see here is a bit of a bullish candle here, similar to what we saw last week. There was a bit of an upward momentum, and a lot of it was due to US dollar being negatively impacted. The government shutdown was also not very good for the US dollar. We saw that US dollar was negatively impacted by that. So that's another thing that was a weighing on the US dollar. Now, with pound dollar here, this one as well, I'm looking for it to push up a bit, and from there potentially do one of these. So there is some bullishness in this candle, and I think it could go up a bit. Now we are into this resistance at 1.2800 if we look over here. So this is a good support and resistance level. So I will look for a price to go potentially into the 2800 and then drop from there. So bias is slightly to the upside here, but then looking for price to drop further at that point. And all the US crosses will be impacted by our non-farm payroll. All right, so Aussie dollar here. So most things did not move a whole lot when last week here. So now we are in this sort of no man's land here with a lot of these things. We are into support, but as we can see here, this was a doji, so really no direction here. Completely neutral candle price. Finished the week exactly where it started. So bias here is neutral as well. But because overall move is to the downside, I'm looking for price to drop. Now, it could pull back, and so we have to watch out for that. At this moment, my bias will be to the downside on Aussie. So I'm looking for something like this, potentially price to come back and test the low and break the low. So bias will be more to the downside. But in terms of the weekly candle close, this is perfectly neutral candle close here. We could also see one of these moves. So keep that in mind, because we could get a deeper pullback into this support and resistance area here. But overall, the weekly candle close is neutral. So bias will be neutral, but because overall bias is to the downside, so it's neutral to bearish for Aussie dollar. New Zealand dollar here. New Zealand dollar also, we see hasn't really moved very much. So it's kind of like all the other ones here, hasn't moved a whole lot, but this one has been slightly bearish here. So bias is still to the downside for this one. And in terms of the target, the next target that I would watch out for would be 0.6580 level. So bearish bias for New Zealand dollar. Dollar CAD here, looking for price to go higher. So it's slightly bullish here. We have seen this big bullish move in dollar CAD. I'm looking for it to continue. So bias here is bullish. It's holding above the support resistance area here. So looking for it to go towards 1.3800. But prior to that, there will be some areas where it could falter. So overall bias is bullish for dollar CAD, and 1.3800 will be the target. Euro pound here, it's been range bound here for the last little bit. And looking at the weekly here, we see that it's been stuck in this area for the last 3 weeks. So in this case, I'm looking for price to basically go and test the high once again potentially, and then come back down. So looking for a further range bound move here as well. So a lot of these things are range bound, mostly because the big traders take off the holiday season, and really there isn't a whole lot of positions that are being placed by institutional traders, and hence market tends to just consolidate during these times. So that is the same here. Euro Swiss franc here, we see price has dropped here, but it's still in that range here. So my bias is to the downside for this one, looking for price to maybe pull back a bit, something like this, and then drop further here. Bias is to the downside here. And first looking for a retest of the low, and then if it breaks here, and second target here would be 1.18 here. Sorry, 1.118 will be the target here for Euro Swiss franc here. Now, with low liquidity next week and we have non-farm payroll, we could see volatility in the market, especially on Friday. So just keep that in mind. But otherwise, I'm not expecting huge moves here for any of the crosses. This one as well, as we can see, is just kind of trading sideways here for the last 3 weeks, hasn't really done much. It is slightly bearish, but we would have to see a break of 1.2520 area for it to continue further. So overall bias is to the downside. However, we could get pullbacks in this one as well. Something like this probably. So looking for a range bound to a bearish move. Target here, first I'm looking for a retest of 1.2420 and then 1.2350 and potentially into 1.2220. So bearish bias here for pound Swiss franc as well. Dollar Swiss franc here, the US dollar did not do too well last week. As a result, most of the dollar pairs have dropped a lot. This one is bearish, so bias is bearish here. Now, watch out for the pullback because those could happen. So something like this, first target would be the test of the bottom here at 0.9790, and then looking for it to potentially move down further here. Target will be 0.9700, so bearish bias for dollar Swiss franc here. Pound yen here, this one has moved down, but as I said, not big moves anywhere. So bias is to the downside. But it's bearish to neutral. So we see a small little doji here. So this is an indecision candle, which means it could go either way. We do have to keep an eye on how the stock markets open this week, because when stock markets are dropping, yen crosses tend to drop with the stock market as well. And if it picks up here, we could see this go back up. So this candle is similar to this candle, except it has a little bit more bearishness in it. And as a result of that, I will say bearish bias here, looking for 138.50 to the downside, but watch out for some positive activity here, especially if the stock market starts going up. This one could go up as well. Euro yen here, this one as well. I got too many. Let's get rid of all the support resistance areas. Okay, so this one as well, we have a small doji here as well. So not a whole lot going on in the markets at this point, but bias is bearish here still. We are coming into support here, as we can see right here, but overall bias is to the downside, and next target would be 124.50 for euro yen. For dollar yen, dollar yen is bearish. This is, again, US dollar was the one that was more negatively impacted just because of the government shutdown and all that political stuff going on in the country. But bias is to the downside. I would look for 109.30, which is the next support and resistance level here. So bias is bearish. We did see this price go and test the high, and since then it has been dropping. So I would look for price to drop further. 109.30 will be the first target, and then 108 will be the second target. So bearish bias for dollar yen. Aussie yen here, this one has dropped quite a bit. We saw a big drop the week before, and we were looking for a drop last week. We got that. Now the bias is still bearish here. 76.80 will be the target to the downside. And beyond that, we are looking at 76.00. So bearish bias for Aussie yen here as well. New Zealand yen was another one that was negatively impacted here. So we saw price drop, looking for price to go back further to retest these support levels here into 72.30 levels. So bearish bias for New Zealand yen as well. So let's take a look at, so we'll do CAD yen and then we'll go into our equities here. CAD yen, bearish bias here as well. So we are back into the bottom. Next target would be 78.80 level. Now we are into support level. So if price does not break the support level, it could push up higher. So I would be careful and I would look for a break here before taking too many trades to the downside. So bearish bias here, looking for price to drop further into 78.80 level. All right, so let's go into our commodities now. Looking at gold here. So gold has been going up with the US dollar not faring so well. So this is bullish. So big bullish candle close here. Looking for price to go up further here. Although we are right into our resistance level as well. So be mindful of that, especially if the US dollar turns around. This one could turn around as well with the US dollar. The bias is bullish here based on the weekly candle close. And once price breaks this 1283 level, next one will be 1309 will be the next target level here. And then we are into important support resistance area here. So bullish bias for gold here. Oil has been dropping here, and we have seen price go all the way into the support, and from there it's been consolidating sideways, and hence we have this candle here. So we are into support, and as a result we could see price bounce off of that because it's been trading sideways on the daily here. Let's go down to the daily once again, and okay, so as we can see on the daily here, price has been consolidating in this level here. So I think we could see price drop here, test the bottom, and go back into the range here. So that's the type of move I'm looking for from oil. So bias is to the downside, but once it hits the bottom here, hits the support, I'm looking for it to pull back into the range here as well. So bias is bearish for oil. Copper here, we have seen a drop, a pullback, and now I would look for price to drop again. So bias is bearish here and looking for it to come back down towards the support here at 2.56 level. This one here, so looking for price to drop, bearish bias for copper. Let's take a look at our silver next, and then we'll take a look at some indices here. Silver has been going up here, so bullish bias here as well for silver, and next target here will be 15.66. So this is looking bullish as well. So that's silver, and let's go into what's going on with our indices here. S&P 500, this one has pulled back. We had a big drop here and then a pullback. So this one could go up further here. So I would look for a price to go higher and then come back down. So the type of move I would look for here, especially since we have had so many sort of down days here, look for price to go into support resistance at 25.50 and then potentially come back down from there, or it could go even higher into this 2600 level and then drop from there. So my bias is bullish right now for S&P 500. Nikkei here, we are looking at a bit of a pullback here. Now we have this sort of indecision candle here as well. So this one we'll have to see which direction it wants to go into. It could pull back higher into 203.45 or even into 208.27 level here. So we'll have to wait and see. We are into support level as we see here. So we'll have to wait and see. Right now, it's just going sideways in this range. If we were to take a look at the daily, you'll see it's just been trading in this range. So for this one, it could go higher. So I would look for either something like this or just a drop and then price goes back higher from there. So basically looking for it to trade the range this week here. Let's do NASDAQ here. NASDAQ, same thing as S&P here. We see a pullback. It could go a little higher. So I would look for a price to go into 64.50 level and then potentially basically reverse from there or drop from there. It could go higher into the 67.38 level and do one of these. So those two options are available. So the bias is bullish right now, and we just need to take a look at where it will basically change direction or react. And DAX here is looking bearish, but we have a large pin in the bottom, which means it could pull back higher here. So if it does pull back, I would look for a retest of this 11017 level here approximately, and then any kind of but for now this is looking bearish, so we could get a retest and like this and potentially like that. So basically it's still kind of range bound, but it could drop, but because there is pin in the bottom, this means there is bullishness in this, and this one could go higher as well. FTSE here, let's take a quick peek. FTSE has been trading in a range here. So we see price going sideways. So this is basically sideways for the last week or last little bit here. So, but because we have this large pin, this could go higher now, and 69.15 could be the target here. So if it breaks the high here, I would look for it to go higher. So we'll have to wait and see at this point. A lot of these things, we see indecision candles. So we'll have to wait and see how price moves, so we can we can see what we need to do. So Bitcoin, let's take a quick peek at what Bitcoin is doing. Where is it? Okay, so, oh, my apologies here. Bitcoin right here. Okay, Bitcoin is not really doing a whole lot. It's just going sideways at the moment. It has pulled up, but as we can see, we have a neutral candle close, just like this neutral candle close. So bias is neutral for this one as well. And looking at the daily, we have a bullish candle. So we could look for price to go up higher here into this 42.10 level, and then we could it could get into trouble, or it could go higher into 4,400. But right now, it's just been trading in this range for the entire week. So bias is neutral for this one as well. But in the short term, I think this one could go higher or even into 4,400 level. So neutral bias there. And okay, so let's see. Dollar index and euro index. So we'll go to trading view here for that. So let's take a look at dollar index. Okay, so the dollar index has been dropping, but we do have pins. We are into support here, which means price could bounce off here. So I would look for price to do one of these here. So we could see a further drop and potentially price turns around at this 96.20 level. So if it does not break this level, I would look for a turnaround, especially with this pin here. It could bounce up, but the non-farm payroll number will have an impact on this, on the US dollar this week. So that's something that we have to really keep an eye on. Let's take a look at Euro index. So for now, it looks slightly bearish for the dollar index, but we are into support. Okay, so as for Euro index, we have a bearish pin bar, which means we could drop further, although we're looking at a daily. Let's take a look at the weekly here. From the daily perspective, there was a pin bar, so which means it could drop further. But from a weekly perspective, it is slightly bullish here, but we have pins on both sides, which means it may be at a turning point. So I would look for something like this. If price is not able to break this resistance at 115 level here, we could see price come back down. And as we can see for several weeks here, it's just been trading in this range here, hasn't really done a whole lot. So right now I would look for price to push up high into the, or higher into the top of the range and then drop from there. But it's range bound at the moment. We have pins on both sides, so that's more. It's looking more like neutral to slightly bullish here. But this one could go either way as well. So as this is a regular, normal holiday trading, not a lot of people are in the markets at the moment. So that's why market's not really moving a whole lot. So I expect things to pick up in maybe the second week of January here when everybody comes back. So this week, I think, will be kind of quiet, and non-farm payroll will have an impact, especially with low liquidity week. Those numbers are very important and can move things. So that's something we have to watch out for. But otherwise, I am expecting things to be just, just the way are kind of quiet going into this week here. And there's a question, can I provide my WhatsApp number? I'm not really on WhatsApp. And in terms of trading decisions, I can't really provide advice on what trades to take and so forth. If you want to see my analysis, you're welcome to join my trade room. And actually coming up here, just to let everybody know, we will be starting the Turning Pro Challenge once again. Maybe into the third week of January is when I will start it. And with the Turning Pro Challenge, I will also be running a boot camp, which will be more like a coaching kind of service where I will help everyone kind of go through this stuff. So I'll be teaching. I'm looking to redo my course. So I'll be teaching there as well as providing coaching. So we'll have teaching once a week and coaching call once a week, where I'll be able to provide support, feedback on trades. I'll also be able to provide feedback on the trade journals and basically help you along. So this is kind of like doing it together. So last time when we did the Turning Pro Challenge, it was just basically providing the worksheets and stuff like that. So this one will be a little bit more comprehensive if you do want to join that, or if you just want to kind of follow me along as we do the challenge. That one will be free, but the boot camp here will be, I'm thinking $997, and we'll kind of run that for 3 months. So you'll get support from me, but there'll be more details on that coming up as we go into the new year. So keep your eyes open for that. But for now, this week, I would say enjoy your holidays, take some time off so that when we come back, you're all refreshed. So that's it for today. You guys have a wonderful week coming up and a wonderful new year, and wish you all the very best for the coming year. I will see you next week then. Bye for now.